to reading in this class, I thought it would be good to give you a brief history of children's literature that kind of covers some major periods of children's literature in English. Other countries and languages were developing their own children's literatures in different ways and at different times, but I'm not going to go into that now. I'm going to focus on children's literature in English. So starting out in the 1500s and 1600s, when modern English, as we know it more or less, was really getting started, children's literature was primarily didactic. It was used for instructing children in good manners, good grooming, and good morals. An example is Youth's Behavior or Decency in Conversation Amongst Men. This text was translated from French by an 8-year-old, probably with a little help from his teacher, but it has great advice like, in yawning, howl not, hearing thy master, or likewise the preacher, wiggle not thyself, as seeming unable to contain thyself within thy skin. I think that's good advice for everyone, not just children. In America, the situation was primarily the same. Primers were used to teach children to read. The Bible was the main textbook for everyone, and fables were also used to teach good morals. That's a picture of Aesop from Spain. In the 1740s, things changed a little bit with a man named John Newbery. He wrote children's books, and he also developed children's publishing as a field unto itself. He wrote a book called A Little Pretty Pocket Book, with a long title that follows that, which you can read. But on the left side of the screen, you'll see that he emphasized instruction with delight. So he added a little more amusement, a little more fun to the didactic children's literature of the time. Today, and for the last 100 years or so, the American Library Association has honored distinguished contributions to American literature for children with a medal named after John Newbery. The 1800s could be called the golden age of children's literature. You may have heard of the Victorian myth of childhood, or their kind of idealization of childhood, and as childhood as a time of life became more valued, children's literature began to respect its readers more. What I mean by this is literature started taking children seriously as people and not just heathen souls that needed to be taught how to behave and saved from their sins. It is during this period that we get authors that you've probably heard of or maybe even read. You can see a few of their names there. Kate Greenaway was an illustrator of the Victorian era, and I love her illustrations so much. So after that, in the 1900s and beyond till today, as you probably know, children's literature is a huge part of the publishing industry, and it has as many genres within it as adult literature. We have things like historical fiction, biography, contemporary fiction, and fantasy. As you probably noticed, those are all Newbery Award-winning books. And that was a very, very brief history of children's literature in English.